Hello everyone! Pineapple here with the next part of Dark Gallifrey Master. Part 1 by Lizzie Hopley, who's had a fair few writing and acting credits, having seen her last on the channel writing The Battle of Giants Causeway. And I'm starting to think Dark Gallifrey Part 1's accursed. Morbius Part 1 was great, but the War Master Part 1 was messy, Missy Part 1 was a lot of setup, and felt a little dragged out and unbalanced, and this story, at least for me, is another miss. It's clearly building towards something really interesting, but with so many new characters that are hard to keep track of, me having to keep notes and reducing a couple to the one that does this, I think they needed more time. Maybe it should have been taken away from all the technobabble that it takes to focus on building up the dynamics of psychic ability users on Gallifrey and the ins and outs of the Academy, or the cast just needed to be reduced to maybe 4 survivors instead of 6, because as it is, I didn't feel like I really knew most of them. And with this part being spread a month away from the next, that's a bit of a problem. Gamara is our main character, played by Claire Huckle, and while her slightly frustrating manner can be compelling in her child form, I found her quite frustrating and up herself in the present of the story. And that's not good for your main character. Sure, she was taken under Romana's wing, but she comes off as a little unintelligent in moments and very self-important. There are some really nice empathizing moments, but I found for the most part, she was uninteresting. Cylindra, or Suli to Gamara, played by Millie Hikasa, is the one Gamara is closest to in the story. But you know what? Even after my re-listen, I can't recall what she really did in the past section. In the present, she's the one that calls the investigator and Gamara together to figure out what's killing the remaining people from the field trip off. But I also can't tell you what she did in the past, other than seeing a ghostly apparition calling himself Hawk Oth Death, which many of the others see anyway. The next of the group is Olzel, the one that due to a few hints I'm thinking won't make it out alive, but once again a character that I only really know as the one that did this or that, being stabbed by a branch and hallucinating. She's played well by Francesca Gilbert, but there isn't a lot to be done with her character here. Most of the interactions with her though are from Tabreen, played by Nadia Violet Johnson, and I was expecting just the uptight, morally grey teacher's pet, and she does start out as mostly that, but her tenderness with Olzel seeming to fray the sicker she gets, and the more the Master influences her, I'm expecting good character moments next part. It's good setup. Next we have the cousins Torlus and Borin, played respectively by Chris O'Delele and Nathan Griffiths. Borin seems the meeker of the two, with Torlus being outspoken and critical of those higher up than him, but I'll be honest, apart from the drama when they crash landed, I couldn't care less about these two. I'm interested to see what Torlus will do next part, but in this one they do absolutely nothing for me. One of the characters solely in the present is a mind shield, the investigator brought by Suli to help with the investigation and get the story of the past from Gamara. She has a lot of new terminology and a whole new Time Lord doctrine to try and set up, as this story tries to help explore the mental side of the Time Lord Society and teachings, which match the Master well. But the Mind Shield mostly just has to put up with Gamara's shit, but I am interested to see what she does next time. Finally, we have the Master himself, and while I liked his moments of manipulation, he kinda feels barely in it. I can see how him being here manipulating will continue to build up in the next part, his manipulations of the young characters furthering, as it seems to insinuate one of them will die, but with how the other main characters were disappointing, the Master's role is clearly reduced to give them more focus. But it unfortunately isn't enough, meaning the Master's lacking role stands out like a sore thumb. Eric Roberts does well, but like I said, he's barely in his own story, making a double-edged sword that makes me dissatisfied with both sides. But you know what? He may have kidnapped some school children, but at least none of them brought guns.
There is nothing tough. There's nothing cool about taking a gun to school.
Now why don't we touch on the story? It's split into phases, a lot looser than Morbius's chapters, but work well in the story as it's the Mind Shield step program to get the info from Gamara. Gamara, being as annoying and up herself as possible, arrives at a remote location to meet Suli, but is only met with Cylindra's Mind Shield, sent to investigate her death, and telling Gamara that she is now the last of those from the field trip. Here to get the story from Gamara Gamara to possibly save her life. So we jump into the past where we meet the main cast, a group of promising students, and even if we don't have the time to really explore it, I do like that Lizzie Hopley tries to give us some institution and hierarchy to the Gallifreyans. Not only does it fit well tonally with the Master and Gallifrey focus, but especially with the repeated theme of the mind arts, it's something I haven't seen that heavily touched upon. The students are met with the Master, who has clearly done something to their tutor, and he takes them off-world. But the ride quickly goes wrong, crashing into a planet that looks a lot like Gallifrey. Maybe a little bit darker, meaning this could possibly be another version or a shadow of Dark Gallifrey, but will most likely not actually tell us what Dark Gallifrey is specifically. In the crash, Olzel is stabbed, Borin gets trapped between dimensions, only brought back when hit by a figure with what they think is a spear, but later seems to be an arrow, and the Master is dead, but to help them along comes a Matrix projection of the Master. The kid's putting his corpse into a waiting Utrastone, very convenient, which are basically suspended animation stones, introduced by Lizzie Hopley in the Box of Terrors. Gamara posits to the Mind Shield about the Time Lord legend Mother Quiver, and if this story is about her, I'm actually kinda psyched. Her existence is confirmed through the Box of Terrors, and we hear a woman cackling later that the main characters seem not to notice. Gamara and the Mind Shield have a nice moment where she reveals her battle scars to Gamara and shows her Suli's current state in a living death, the same as all her other friends. Torless attacked after targeting the Doctor, Borin seemingly killed by something like Mother Quiver, and Tabreen seemingly dead with a pierced Utrastone. Clearly a message, as it takes a hell of a lot of power to destroy a Utrastone. Back in the past, they tell the Master about this Horkoth death, him realizing it's the Doctor, and we know 8 is gonna pop up, so it's probably him. Although I'm not holding my breath, the last time I heard 8 appear mid-storyline it was Planet Krynoid, and that was almost character assassination. The story ends with the cousins discussing this being an immoral psychological experiment, but swearing to stick together, Tabreen untrusted, Olzel not lucid, and the Master insinuating to Gamara, after his manipulations don't work, that one of them has to die to save Gallifrey. A pretty good cliffhanger for an otherwise, part of a story. So while I see really good creativity and an attempt to make an interesting mystery, the new characters are either frustrating, although that seems to be by design so we can see their layers like Gamara, or they barely exist. Like me remembering Ozel simply as the one who hallucinates and got stabbed. Listening a second time, although I do have to say this was at time of release, whereas I wrote my part 2 and 3 reviews very recently, it seems just really hard to balance the Dark Gallifrey stories when they release a month apart, because Morbius perfectly set up its new characters and story, but every subsequent release fails to meet the balance. And maybe that's because each of these stories has been about a Master but jumps in from someone else's perspective, making them feel understaged by the Master, and the Master feel underused thanks to playing second fiddle to the other characters. I hope people enjoy this story, and I really think it will work at least twice as good if you listen to it right before part 2, or at least close to part 2. But having these a month apart, they need a different writing style, as these 3 parts would really fit well together in a box set. But so far, Morbius is the only one to hit the balance between monthly and an all-at-once story perfectly. I'll have to give Dark Gallifrey Master Part 1 a 5.5 out of 10. Nowhere near as disjointed as the War Master Part 1, but I didn't vibe with these characters or the way the Master was used here as much as Missy Part 1. This score is mostly a combination of personal inability to like the characters and the story being a victim of the release schedule. Thank you everybody for watching my review of Master Part 1. I'm happy to say Part 2 and 3 will be more positive. Please like the video if you liked it, comment down below if you wish, consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, ring the notification bell so you're told every single time that I make an upload. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next review. Bye!
Toast. A little piece of toast. Because there's so much to choose from. There's brown bread, white bread, all sorts of wholemeal bread. It comes in funny packages with writing on the side.